Hello there, warm welcome to you. Tuned into Eye on Africa. I'm Rochelle Ferguson-Bui. These are the top stories on the continent. South Africa's chief prosecutor confirms that the former president Jacob Zuma will face corruption charges relating to an arms deal in 1999. We cross live to get the very latest from our correspondent Aisha Ismail. The revelation that some MPs can receive over $37,000 a month in personal expenses sparks public outrage in Nigeria, a country where the divide between rich and poor is increasingly problematic. And what's the future of humanity? That's just the question a conference called Paris Talks will try and answer later this month. Scientists, decision makers, futurists, you name it, they're all converging on the French capital to share their ideas. We speak to the organisers, Michael Bahati and Kenya Hoffmeyer. But first to our top story. South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma is to face corruption charges over an arms deal in the late 1990s worth $2.5 billion. Zuma's set to face 16 charges in total, including graft and money laundering. 75-year-old who was forced to step down by his ruling ANC last month has firmly denied those allegations. Here's the chief state prosecutor, Shaun Abraham, speaking earlier.
After consideration of the matter, I am of the view that there are reasonable prospects of a successful prosecution of Mr. Zuma on the charges listed in the indictment served on Mr. Zuma.
Well, let's bring you some more on this story. France 24's Aisha Ismail is standing by for us in South Africa. Let's cross live to her. Aisha, talk us through, if you will, what this actually means for Jacob Zuma today.
Well, Jacob Zuma has always maintained his innocence, and he's always said that he would like to have his day in court. And now that day has come. But at the same time, for 9 years, President Jacob Zuma has been fighting this case. He's been wanting the charges to be withdrawn against him. He has used millions of taxpayers' money to get these charges to go away. And now finally, the head of the National Prosecutions Authority, Shaun Abrahams, has made a decision, and former President Jacob Zuma will now be indicted and face 16 charges involving fraud, corruption, racketeering and money laundering relating to a very controversial and lucrative arms deal. And some of those implicated in this arms deal is a French arms company that will also be charged and that will stand accused with former President Jacob Zuma.
The chief prosecutor there, rather, talking about, reasonable prospects of a successful prosecution. What have reactions to this news coming out today been?
Well, the opposition parties, of course, have welcomed this decision. They've said that it's long overdue. Ordinary South Africans have also taken to social media platforms to say that they are happy that President Jacob Zuma will finally have his day in court. They also saying that it's a pity that it's coming so late because he has used taxpayers' money to try and prevent these charges against him. And of course, now this is going to take place. And the prosecutor, the head of the prosecution authorities, have said that he does have a strong case against former President Jacob Zuma.
All right, Aisha Ismail reporting for us from Cape Town. Thank you. Now, African and European ministers have been meeting in the Nigerian capital, Niamey, this Friday to discuss ways to tackle migrant traffickers. Niger has become one of the principal routes used by migrants trying to cross to the Mediterranean and reach Europe. Ministers from nations including Burkina Faso, Chad, Guinea, Ivory Coast were all there, plus representatives from several EU countries. Well, a draft declaration has set out plans to increase punishment for human traffickers and set up a dedicated task force. Burundian police say at least 9 people have been killed in a landslide in the capital, Bujumbura. A heavy rainfall caused a hillside next to the Gaisini River to collapse, burying construction workers on the site. Authorities say that rescue efforts are set to continue. Back in 2014, the Gaisini River sparked floods in the north of Bujumbura, claiming at least 50 lives. In Nigeria, the revelation that some MPs can receive over $37,000 a month in personal expenses has sparked public outrage. That figure was revealed by a senator from President Buhari's All Progressives Congress Party. Well, with many Nigerians living on less than $2 a day, the disparity between rich and poor has once again been thrust into the spotlight. France 24's Shirley Sitborn has this report.
The bombshell revelation of how much money senators receive came from inside Parliament. Each lawmaker gets the equivalent of $2,000 in terms of salary and an extra $37,500 more to cover his expenses every month. What do most Nigerians earn? The equivalent of $50. This street vendor earns $2.22 per day.
Our leaders will not think about the poor man and how to help them get out of bad situations.
The gap between what lawmakers and regular citizens get angers many who believe state cash is being wasted. Many are also infuriated because they believe MPs don't do enough. According to Shehu Sani, the senator who disclosed lawmakers' salaries, the enormous sums are the reason incompetent people run for office.
The more there is less monetary reward for being in the National Assembly, then it will be less attractive for people who have nothing to contribute.
Angry citizens call for different rules, an investigation. Others push voters to call their elected officials and demand change.
Now, what are you doing on the 26th of March? Well, if you're here in the French capital, you might want to check out a conference entitled Paris Talks. The theme of the event is the future of humanity. On the day, decision makers, artists, scientists, you name it, they're all going to be meeting in one place to share their most promising ideas for the future. Well, I'm joined here in the studio by organisers Michael Bahati and Kenya Hofmeyr. Thanks very much for speaking to us.
Thanks for having us, Rochelle.
I mean, Michael, let's start with you. You're originally from Uganda.
That's right.
You adopted Paris as your home several years ago. Where has this idea for Paris Talks come from?
After running, actually, Paris Talks is an Expats Paris conference. Expats Paris is a community of Paris-based expatriates, English-speaking Paris-based expatriates. And after running events for this community and with this community for more than 3 years, actually time had come for us to pass on to another level. And the best thing we could think of was the future of humanity. That's where the idea comes from.
All right, the future of humanity, Kenya, is a huge topic. What can people who attend the event expect?
They can expect a great deal, actually. We have 20 speakers confirmed, 12 men, 8 women, and there are a range of topics from education to technology to sustainable development to even the future of sex. So there's a lot of different topics involved, a lot of different predictions on what the future of humanity will be in 2075, and a lot of diverse perspectives. So I think that's what's unique and interesting about this conference.
Now, Michael, you've got speakers coming from many different places in the world, some from Africa as well. Just
That's right.
Who is coming?
So he's actually received his visa, and we're so happy that he's flying in next week. His name is Bernard. He's an entrepreneur, and he's flying in next week, and he'll be speaking about how millennials are changing the investment world and the future of economy and finance. And how all this new generation is going to change the entire paradigm of investment. We've got, her name is Muriel Diako, who is from Ivory Coast. She'll be speaking about sustainable development and how Africans are using tech to work and to put in place some new innovations in agriculture and so many other fields.
I mean, Kenya, it's fair to say that this is probably the first of its kind of this kind of conference with this kind of title, The Future of Humanity. Is the future of humanity optimistic?
is. I guess you could say from our speakers, I think they have an optimistic lens, but they also don't want to give an answer or give a concrete picture of what the future will be. They want to leave that to the audience. So what audience members will really see in these speeches is more so questions to consider when thinking about each individual subject, and more importantly, actions that we need to take today in order to create the future that they are predicting in each of their topics. And so that's what's really interesting and special about this conference, the fact that the speakers give their expertise and give their predictions and opinions essentially, but leave it in the hands of us, the viewers, the general public, to make that future a reality.
So this the Paris Talks conference is going to be a real dialogue essentially with people who are there to speak and to share their views on their visions on the future, and the audience who have bought tickets.
And actually that's what makes it completely different from most of the conferences and festivals and tech shows we've been seeing in the West. Or even in Africa. Nowadays, when you go to a conference, you've got all these startups, you've got all these big tech giants who come and exhibit their products.
Okay.
Paris Talks will be about human connection and talks and a little bit of entertainment.
Kenya, a very final and quick response for you. When can people head to this conference?
They can head to the conference March 26th. The doors open at 8:30 a.m. We will have a master lecture series by Rye Miller from Mexico. At Théâtre de la Porte Saint-Martin, excuse me. They need to know where to go. Yes, on March 26th.
Okay, all right. Thank you both, Michael Bahati and also Kenya Hofmeyr, for your time today.
Thank
that
you,
Paris Talks conference.
Thanks for having us.
Coming up, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
All right, your Eye on Africa team is back in about 45 minutes' time. Join us then.
Special event.
The outcome's a certainty, yet the stakes are high.
Vladimir Poutine, saison 5, ça commence maintenant. كيف ستكون علاقة روسيا مع العالم؟
Watch events unfold on France 24 and France24.com.